y'all. My name's Megan. I'm a homeschool mom of two. And welcome to my channel. Unique, New York. Today's video is going to be super fun because we are talking about, drumroll please, Christmas! Now, this is not the video where I show you guys all of the things I got my kids for Christmas. If you're interested in that, that's actually the last video I made, and I will link it in the description down below. Today, we are going to talk about how I approach Christmas as a secular homeschooler and give you guys an idea of how we celebrate. I'm going to share with you all of the resources we are going to use and basically just give you a rundown of what our December is going to look like. And hopefully it's going to be one to remember. Lots of this today. From a Christian perspective, Christmas is the celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, the literal Son of God come to earth. And even though we can date a December celebration back to the Roman Empire, an official liturgy or religious practice and celebration of the holiday did not begin until the 9th century. However, many of the traditions and symbols of a Christian Christmas are dated back to older pagan holidays and traditions of celebration of Winter Solstice. However, the holiday has become widely secularized, placing the legend of Santa at its center. And although secular celebrations of the season can vary just as much as Christian traditions, I would say, speaking in general terms, that they share a lot of the same traditions and symbols and feature an abundant gift exchange. Our aim this holiday season is going to be to explore several Christmas traditions from all around the world and look at how those Christmas traditions have been honored and celebrated throughout United States history. Now, ignoring or denying the Christian narrative of nativity would be doing a huge disservice to this study. However, we are remaining secular, so any sort of look that we have at those practices and traditions will be from a purely historical perspective. But it is not all about Christmas around here. In addition to looking at all of those Christmas traditions, we are going to be doing a parallel study of traditions and celebrations of Winter Solstice or Yule. Again, any mention of magic or mysticism, we're really just approaching this from a historical or, I don't know, place of curiosity, not a place of belief. But you know what? That makes it sound so dreary, and it isn't, because our overall aim for this holiday season is to have fun, be happy, spread cheer, and really revel in the mirth of the season. To that end, we will be using 2 unit studies as well as books, and more books. And we will also be rereading our family's favorite Christmas read aloud. I will, of course, be sharing that with you guys later in this video. So the first resource that I picked up before I show this to you guys, just note, we have finished our first week, and you'll see from this printout that we have obviously been using this heavily. So without further ado, the first resource that I picked up is An American Girl Christmas, and this was produced by Little School of Smiths. And see what I'm saying about how old PJ has already gotten her mitts on this once or twice. Definitely added her own little holiday flair. We ain't fancy around here. I just printed this on my black and white printer and have it put together with my little clippy here. Now, Lindsay from Little School of Smiths, she is not a secular homeschooler, and the resources that she creates are not necessarily secular. However, I have had no problem secularizing them, and again, we do not deny or ignore the Christian themes present in most or a lot of Christmas traditions and celebrations. We simply approach them from a historical perspective. Yes, my initial attraction to this unit study was my nostalgic love for American Girl dolls. Even though your girl never had an American Girl doll, we just weren't that kind of family. I did paw through all of the catalogs and read all of the books. 90s Megan was here for the American Girl content. Don't get squirrely on me because I know that I went so hard on Thanksgiving. And then this really feels like, man, I'm just dialing it way back. But when I saw this unit study, I pushed aside my own prejudices of American Girl feeling like soft history and started doing research before I ever purchased the unit studies. And I found a Smithsonian article that so perfectly articulated the things that I feel about American Girl novels, the good and the bad, and I am definitely going to link that article down below for you. But you should know the Pleasant Company, which is the original manufacturers of the American Girl dolls, I think until 98, 99, when the company is bought by Mattel, they hired historians to make sure that the dolls, accessories, and stories they were creating were as accurate as possible. They also hired like legitimate authors who produce these stories that are layered, that are complex, and really bring alive the time period without it getting too bogged down in fact in detail. Instead, it really just blends that historical perspective into the lives of these children. The American Girl's stories, for me, made history feel real. So much of the time, I think that the narrative history starts to feel like some story that happened to people long ago instead of actual human experiences. And as a child, to be able to read, even though these are fictionalized characters, to be able to read and relate to the experiences of children made history feel tangible. And I cannot overemphasize the importance of making history, these narratives, stories, actions, consequences feel real. The empathy that that builds in children, in citizens of the world, is such a powerful tool to, I don't know, like things like world peace, right? I know that I am getting very hyperbolic, but I am very passionate about history and making it feel real for our kiddos. Now, the lives of the American Girl dolls and the characters, right, that they create these novels or stories for, they are far from perfect. These girls deal with grief, poverty, slavery, war, that weird struggle of being like 8, 9, 12 and just not knowing what the future holds for you. All of those are also put into the American Girl novels. And before this year, when I am giving these narratives, these books a reread, I had not looked at an American Girl novel, picked one up since I was in high school. And since then I've earned, thank you very much, a degree in history and in political science, and I taught history, right? It's been a long time since I've touched these, and rereading them as an adult, it's just, wow, they are not, again, shying away from the difficulties of the time periods in which these characters existed. Now, is there some romanticizing of like what life was like without electricity, etc.? Like, sure, okay. But for the most part, they really do not. Again, the authors are not turning away from perhaps those grittier elements of American history while keeping it appropriate for the age level of girls that might be reading this novel. And you know what? I'm going to rewind that of children reading these novels, because I think we have a tendency, because there is girl in that American Girl title, to not share these stories with little boys. And what a disservice, you guys, because I can't really think of a male counterpart that has done the same thing. I don't know. If you know one, link it down below. And also, we expect our little girls to read a wide variety of children's literature in which the vast majority of protagonists are males. And for whatever reason, that number increases greatly if the characters are animals, which is just strange. So asking our little boys to empathize with girls throughout history would be such a powerful tool as well. So all genders, I think this series is appropriate. Okay, enough of me waxing poetically about American Girls. Let's take a look at this curriculum. The first thing that I want to say is that please don't be scared off if you've never read any of the American Girl books before. You do not need to be caught up in the series to jump into the books that are used for this particular curriculum, because obviously they use the surprise series, like here's Josefina's Surprise, which are the Christmas novels, like duh. You don't need to have reread or previously read the series to be caught up. And usually at the beginning of each novel, the books have gone ahead and given you a rundown of all of the main characters and built a family tree, so you can really walk into the stories of these girls and feel very comfortable just sinking right in. There are 6 separate units to this particular study, each unit following a specific American girl, her story, as well as exploring the traditions related to Christmas that is relevant to her family culture and to the time period in which she is existing. Lindsay based this curriculum off of the American Girl Christmas Treasury collection book, which I have linked down below. I will say that it is pretty salty on Amazon, but I hopped over to Thrift Books and was able to pick up all 6. Now we're going to be using 3 this year. I'll go over that in a minute. But I was able to pick up all 6 online from Thrift Books for a total of seriously less than $15. And it's actually kind of fun because they are the sort of editions that I was used to seeing as a kiddo in the library. And they're kind of fun too, because a lot of them do come from libraries, and you know, they just have some little artifacts in them that could be interesting to show your kiddos. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember when you went to the library and the books would have cards in them that you had to have stamped, but that was a real fun conversation to have with my kids as to like what this was in the back of a library book and possibly what we used it for. Y'all, like, I don't have any cons about this curriculum, like seriously. And I'll speak to that more in detail when I show you the first unit that we've completed. But what I'm going to say just right off of the bat is that there's a huge list of additional books that I just think are really fabulous and valuable books. It's not as if Lindsay just like Googled books that go along with each Christmas tradition. They're really well thought out resource suggestions. And also the crafts. The crafts are totally obtainable. Like, it's not one of those units where the crafts are like, okay, and there's 35 steps to this craft. You're going to have to go to a specialty store to purchase them. No, these are like, you got brown paper sacks, then great, you've got a craft. I really appreciate that, especially when I have little kiddo running to the store or trying to get those additional materials. It is just not feasible for me, especially during like the holiday season. I think my own personal nightmare might actually have to be going into Walmart with a 3-year-old right now. I'm just saying, okay? And if you're lucky enough to live somewhere where there's a Target, then it's only like a little bit better for you. Oh, I also really like the fact that at the beginning of each unit, when she introduces the girls, there's a little synopsis. Again, we have some Patty art. There's a little synopsis of what tradition the girls celebrate, where the book is set, what time period we're looking at, as well as the additional books that you can get, the activities, the recipe. And oh, I really like this element of this unit study, which is that each particular girl comes with a service unit, basically giving the kiddos some suggestions of things they can do for their family and around their house, holla, to make the Christmas season more bright and cheerful, and has that element of giving in it. And I really appreciate that. Anyways, all of that is to say, when I introduced this unit to Winnie, my eldest, who's 7, we started talking about it a little bit before Thanksgiving. And we sat down and I read the little blurbs to her about each girl and then told her that she could choose 3. because we're actually going to attempt to complete 3 of these this Christmas season because we're like eternal optimists. I don't know. We did finish 1 unit in a week, so we have 2 more weeks to do 2 more units, and I'm hoping that that works out. Okay, so the 3 characters we are covering this Christmas season. The first one we did and have completed is Josefina, and this is set in 1824 New Mexico, and this is the unit that I'm going to give you guys a little preview of. But we're also doing Kirsten, which this is set in also the 19th century, and I believe Minnesota. Have like Little House on the Prairie vibes, right? I'll talk about this a little bit more as well. And then finally, we are looking at Addie, who is set in 1864 during the Civil War. Okay, so like I said, we have completed the Josefina unit. We had a really great time reading it. This particular book has Spanish words blended into the story. Yes, there is a Spanish glossary, but it does ask you to simply use context clues to understand what those words mean, which I thought was really fun for Winnie, right? Context clues, as well as just to learn that, 7-year-olds are pretty bright. You don't have to ask them what everything means. And we have also finished the activity that came with that, which was to make the paper bag lanterns. This was really fun, incredibly easy, and they did turn out looking pretty much just like that. We're doing the recipe tomorrow, and today we've actually been focusing on completing the acts of service, which were so precious. Let me show you. This is the little graphic that Lindsay's included for the acts of service, but the ones that Winnie chose were to write special notes for your family members, leave them on pillows, give extra hugs, and I think that one was to say, I love you. So of course she chose the ones that didn't actually require her to, clean her sister's room or make my bed, but maybe we're like working towards that, right? Get some emotional maturity. Maybe I just want help cleaning this house. I did pick up 2 of the additional reading books that Lindsay suggests. One I already had, and then the other I purchased off of Amazon. And again, I'm linking all of this down below. But this first one is Twas Nochebuena, which is a Christmas story in English and Spanish. And it's by Roseanne Greenfield Thong. And I showed you guys this one in my last book outlet haul, but it does follow a family as they go through Nochebuena, which is like Christmas Eve traditions. And the illustrations are really precious. I'll show you guys one now. And it talks about or goes through as the family makes tamales to get ready for the holiday season and everything else that they're doing to celebrate. So I like this one because it really brings what we're learning about from Mexican Spanish culture set in 1824 and bringing it to a more contemporary setting. What does that look like today? What if those traditions have lasted, right, and are still maintained? The second book we got is 9 Days to Christmas, A Story of Mexico. And this is by Marie Halls Etz. And this actually follows the tradition that is focused on in the Josefina unit, which is Los Posanos. And it sets it in a really contemporary, well, more contemporary than 1824. This book was published in 1959. So it sets what that tradition looks like in a more contemporary setting. And I really do enjoy these illustrations as well. Definitely has that 1959, 1960 art vibe going on, and I just think it's really precious. And I guess this one is it won an award for being a kid's book, okay? And that's really, really cute. All right, so the next one we're going to do is the Kirsten Surprise, A Christmas Story, and this is set in 1854 Minnesota. Like I said, kind of Little House on the Prairie vibes, but adds the element that Kirsten and her family are immigrants from Sweden, so it is really focusing on that sort of fish out of water narrative, as well as like everything that would go with Western expansion. And it focuses on the Swedish celebration of Saint Lucia Day, and you can see here she's got some of the traditional costuming that kids might wear to celebrate that holiday. And the additional books that I picked up for that one, this one actually just came today. I haven't had a real chance to look at it, but it's Lucia, Child of Light, The History and Traditions of Sweden's Lucia Celebrations. So So show that to you here. And it's just a fairly thin read, and we'll probably pick it up and not read the entire thing, but maybe just pick out a few. And I think it looks really cute as well. So that'll be a nice read to go with that. I know that Winnie is really intrigued by the candles worn on these little girls' heads, which it's like, good luck, Winnie Mae, because I'm not letting you put an open flame on top of your head, right? Okay, same with the Christmas trees, you guys. Like, who was first putting candles on a dead tree in their house? Like, was it Martin Luther? That's kind of what I've heard. Comment below if you know, all right? I know Google could do it for me, but I like you guys more. The last Christmas American Girl unit that we're going to be doing this year is Addie, and that is set in 1864. And this follows Addie and her mother as they are newly freed or escaped slaves, building their own life of independence. And of course, it's going to deal with the struggles they're in. It also introduces the Freedmen's Bureau, which I think is a great opportunity to put that historical context in there. Now, in addition to some Christmas traditions happening in this book, Lindsay from Little House of Smiths, or Little School of Smiths, has incorporated a unit on Kwanzaa in there. Kwanzaa was not created until 1966. And it's actually made, it means first fruits in Swahili, and it is a combination of various African traditions of harvest and celebration, and was created to be a uniquely African-American holiday to give individuals who have been affected by the diaspora of Africa an opportunity to reconnect and have that feeling, sense of holiday of their own, and really as an alternative to any Christian narratives. And it is not a religiously affiliated holiday. And the extra book I picked up for that is called Seven Spools of Thread, and this is by Angela Shelf Medeiros, and it is a Kwanzaa story. And this was created specifically for Kwanzaa. And what I really like about this book is it talks about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa and goes into that. So we're definitely going to enjoy looking at that. I'm not sure if this comes up for you guys. And then goes over some of the African traditions. And let me show you these illustrations. I really love this block illustration style because I'm going to be doing an art unit study with block illustration in Christmas. Look for that this week as well. Whoop, whoop. Of course I'm going to share it with you guys. So I really enjoy this block illustration style. I think this is going to be a great read and one that we will return to year in and year out. I like that even though Addie's story obviously is taking place nearly 100 years before the creation, more than 100 years before the creation of Kwanzaa, that we're including that in this Christmas unit study. All right, so my overall impressions of that curriculum is that I really like the units. They're flexible, they're slow paced. You can do as much or as little as you like. I don't have anything bad to say about it, you guys. I really liked it. Yeah, there's some criticisms to be made about the American Girls series as well. Again, all of that is in that Smithsonian article. So if you're interested in that, I've linked that down below. Okay, let's move on and look at what we're going to be doing for Winter Solstice. Okay, so for Winter Solstice, if you don't know, Winter Solstice is the longest night and shortest day of the year. I'm going to check on that, make sure that I didn't reverse those. I did it correctly. Yes, Winter Solstice is a celebration of the longest night and shortest day of the year, because after Winter Solstice, our days start to get longer again. So it's a celebration of the return of the light. So I picked up this unit study. It's Winter Solstice, a curriculum of curiosity, and this came from Tanglewood Hollow. I found this particular curriculum because Megan at School Nest had posted it on her Instagram. I had to message her and be like, oh, what was that you put out there? And she lovingly replied, and I was able to get this. If you have never looked at the Tanglewood Hollow curriculums before, it is really, their content is really based to emphasize nature and children's education. So I will tell you, this curriculum is going to ask you to go outside, which does, like, it's kind of its whole purpose, I think, one of its main tenets. And it is getting really cold around here in northern Indiana, so I'm I don't know how I feel about that, but I feel motivated to get outside despite the fact that the temperatures and the weather might not exactly be inviting. This curriculum is broken down into 5 chapters. And one of the things that I appreciated about this curriculum, like right off the bat, is it definitely takes the time to explain what winter solstice is. Because, you guys, even though I like to think of myself as like a scientifically minded individual, and we are secular, my particular family history and culture is always emphasized Christmas. So it's like, winter solstice, what? And I'm really glad that Tanglewood Hollow took the time to tell you what is the winter solstice, and also includes a nice, like, little diagram for those of us who need a visual in explaining what winter solstice is. And I just really appreciated that the author of this curriculum didn't just come from a place of assumption that, hey, we're all nature gals, we know what winter solstice is, right? Yeah, no, we don't. And we need a little help catching up. And this curriculum definitely does that for you. Something else that I really like about this curriculum is that it blends that sort of scientific perspective on winter solstice, talking about Earth's axis, etc., but it's also sprinkling in the folklore, myth, and a little bit of magic into this unit study. And even though we don't believe in magic, you know, there is a little glitter and shine to the holiday season, and this unit study does not take away from that. And I really appreciate that because I like to keep things a little sparkly for the kids this time of year. It includes some really great alternatives. So if you're not digging a Christmas tree, it tells you about a Yule tree, which, you know, maybe that's what this is back here. I doubt it. Like, I'm sorry, I loves me some nature, but I don't know, something about like wild animals and such coming into my home via a tree, specifically talking about insects. I gotta have a plastic one because also plus it's pink, okay? I loves me some nature, but I also love my pink Christmas tree. Maybe we'll call it a Yule tree this year, who knows? And it also gives you some alternatives for celebrations as well as crafts, which are incredibly achievable because a lot of it is made out of found materials that you can go for a hike and get. And the thing that I'm really looking forward to doing is actually making the pine needle tea recipe that it includes. We have a lot of evergreen trees in our area, so I know that that will work out for us. It just sounds good. Like, we like tea around here, our hot beverages, especially during winter time. I can really see pairing the activities that are in this unit study with something like a poetry tea time. It feels like a very comfortable and natural place to put that. So actually, this upcoming week, we're going to get bundled up and go out and take our first sort of winter solstice hike and gather up all of our supplies. If you want to follow that journey, you can follow me on Instagram down below. I'll definitely make this season into its own little like saved story file circle thing. And the book that I picked up to accompany and be the companion for this study is The Return of the Light, 12 Tales from Around the World for the Winter Solstice. And this is by Carolyn McVicar Edwards. And that is so beautifully illustrated. Oh, I love illustrations if you haven't caught on to that by now. And this actually just goes through and tells the little stories from around the world that has to do with the particular season of winter solstice. Again, we're probably going to choose 3 of these to read this year, maybe less because we have a lot of read alouds going on, but I like that this is an investment that we can come back to year and year again without depleting all of this reading material. Those are the 2 unit studies we're using, but I have a few more books that I want to share with y'all that we're going to be using this holiday season in the month of December. And the first one I'm very excited about, and yeah, I'm not even going to say anymore. I'm just going to show you guys. So this is The Legend of the Christmas Witch by Dan Murphy and Aubrey Plaza. I love Aubrey Plaza. Any Parks and Rec fans out there, or any of the movies that she's been in, Ingrid Goes West, whatever, I love Aubrey Plaza. Her sort of awkward comedy style really fits mine. And this year she released this children's book. Now the basis of the story is that Santa Claus has a twin, the legend of the Christmas Witch. She can speak to animals, has a connection with nature, but her and Santa have had a falling out. Let me show you the illustrations in this book. They are really beautifully illustrated. It gives you that sort of nature vibe, right? That sort of wintry scene. I will tell you, the ending of this book is a little macabre, a little dark. But if you've watched my videos, my kiddos like that kind of thing. A little bit of creep, right? Like we're going to tell scary ghost stories. Remember Tales of the Glories? That sort of, this book fits into that, sort of the scary ghost stories of the Christmas or holiday season. The illustrations are absolutely gorgeous, like I've already said, illustrated by Julia Iredale. Oh my goodness, what a talent. And also you should look up the interviews that Aubrey Plaza has done about this book, because she goes to the interviews in character as the Christmas witch, and it's just hilarious. Like, it's, if I were to be interviewed, maybe I would love to do something like that. I don't know. If I was on an interview, I'd probably be like, hey y'all, it's me, Megan. But I wish that I could like be in character and just be ridiculous and be like, Christmas witch. I think this will be a family favorite that we will return to. And I might pair it with our Winter Solstice study, just because it has that sort of naturey vibe going on. At the beginning of this video, I told you that we would be rereading our family's favorite read aloud, and that is The Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. Now, the version that I read to my kids is a slightly abbreviated version, just because I'm going to be reading this to a 7-year-old, even though this is our 3rd year to read it aloud. You know, I want her to be able to be focused on it. And this actually comes from Classics to Read Aloud to Your Children. And this is by William F. Russell. I got this as a book suggestion from Susan Weiss Bauer and the Well-Trained Child, Well-Trained Mind, whatever that book is that, you know, we all have read, or most of us. And I love these particular excerpts because at the beginning, the author is going to give you a little breakdown of what it is that you're reading. It goes through a glossary of words, but also gives you an estimation as to how long it's going to take you to read it. And this one estimates that a read aloud time is approximately 60 minutes. And we'll break that up from here until mid-December, because in mid-December this year, I am going to take Winnie to go see Christmas Carol musical. She's definitely watched like the Muppet Christmas Carol and the one with Mickey Mouse, right? But we just really love the Charles Dickens Christmas Carol. It is about ghosts, right? There's that sort of macabre feeling, and it's also about the spirit of generosity, especially when we do have so much greed in our world today. It's just a great reminder of what the holiday season is about. It's also one you can poke fun of and make fun of. I mean, it's been around long enough, you guys. It's not precious. And then on top of that, let's see. Oh, I really enjoy the movie, The Man Who Invented Christmas, which is about Charles Dickens at the time he is writing A Christmas Carol, and goes into a bit of his biography. We do watch that as a family. I will say the kids are somewhat interested, but it's probably more for adults, but it is hilarious and has Christopher Plummer as Scrooge, R.I.P., right? I think you guys would really enjoy it. I do have a criticism of this book, and that is just that the classics to read aloud, you know, it's all like dead old white guys, right? But they are excerpts that do continue to be relevant in literature circles. And so it's a great way to expose your kid to a ton of different material pretty quickly. You don't have to commit your reading time to each of those individual things. You can, you know, get them in small doses. Bear with me, I only have 2 more books to show you guys. This one is one that we used 2 years ago and we continue to pull from, and that is A Year Full of Stories, 52 Folktales and Legends from Around the World, and this is by Angela McAllister. Show this to you. What I really like about this book is, of course, the illustrations, because your girl can't help herself, but also the fact that it is broken down by months, so you can jump into this whenever. So flipping forward to the December, the 2 things we're going to be looking at will be The Legend of the Poinsettias, which is a Mexican story, and The Feast, an African story for Kwanzaa. So it goes in, this one's pretty short, right? And then some of them are in greater lengths. And let me see if I can find one that really highlights the beautiful illustration styles that this book provides. And what I'll show you doesn't come from anything that we'll be reading for December. I just want to give you an idea of how gorgeous these illustrations are. Really bright and colorful, and a great way to look at folktales and legends from around the world. the last book, which you've talked about before, but it's What Do You Celebrate? Holidays and Festivals Around the World by Whitney Stewart. And this one's really helpful because, well, it's also outlined in a calendar format, or you can look it up that way. But it gives you some well-known traditions as well as some not so well-known. So this is looking at the Lantern Fest or Lantern Festival from Germany that they celebrate around Christmas as well. It has lovely illustrations, always talks about food and gives you a breakdown of the history and also a picture of that region. We will just read this. We're not doing anything else with this. We're not then making lanterns and then making gingerbread because, you know, I'm not just made of time and energy, but it is something that I can always pick out as a quick read. Maybe you could tuck this into your morning basket. It would be a great one, just kind of a, you know, a one-day activity. Oh, you guys, I know this video is going to be like 1,000,000 years long, and if you're still at this part, then hey, what's up? Thank you. Listen, is it perfect? No, baby. And it was never, ever, 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 ever going to be. I want you to remember that this holiday season, y'all. I know that as moms, we can get wrapped up in the ideas of perfection. I know that when we are pursuing providing the highest level of education for our children, we're always looking for those perfect resources. They don't exist, okay? But you can take what's out there because there are so many wonderful creators today, and you can make it your own. All right? I just want y'all to have a lovely, lovely, lovely December. And you know what? Is it done? Yeah, for today, it is. So until next time, bye.